So there has been an arrest in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I am thrilled to hear that things have moved forward in this way. I've got the full breakdown. I've got, of course, I listened to the entirety of the press conference. I'll bring that to you a little bit later. But right now I have clips for you. I have the story to share. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. The radio show is about to begin. There's a fly in my studio. Let's go to work.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a...
They did indeed catch him. Some people think that this is a giant failure of the FBI because the guy basically admitted it to family members. Family members held him there and turned him in. I don't think I would look at it like that. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. Find everything over at TonyKatz.com. The live stream on YouTube, Tony Katz, Twitter X, Tony Katz, Facebook, Tony Katz Radio. That was Governor Spencer Cox of Utah. They're at the press conference. And I'll share it with you later, the entirety, as much as I could, of the press conference, including the Q&A. But I don't care if it's luck. Luck, there's nothing wrong with. It's a good thing to be on your side sometimes. And as the governor points out in this press conference, there were messages on Discord and other places.
Was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfit.
Now, the messages on the bullets is something that we heard about the other day. We have absolute confirmation of that now. Those messages, those inscriptions.
He had changed outfits. I know there has been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this?" ? Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist!" ! Catch! ! Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
Now, I don't know what some of those messages mean. Maybe others do. Maybe there's a gaming reference. Maybe there's a host of other references. But "Hey fascist, catch," I know what that means. You know what that means. Every single member of the media aristocracy, everyone who has been referring to Trump and Republicans as fascists for years with no basis whatsoever in the truth, the obscenity of it all, including from the former presidential candidate for the Democrats.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
That's Kamala Harris. There is only one person to blame for the actual pulling of the trigger, and that is this person who is in custody. I don't use names. I know that the governor did. I don't do anything to engage that elevation. I am just not interested. Let others do it. You can think of me what you will. That is the person to blame. That is the person who assassinated Charlie Kirk. That is the person who needs to be tried, and if found guilty, needs to be dealt with. They've already let us know in Utah they have the death penalty. Does that mean it's going to come? I don't have the answer. But we should be people who are clear that there was a concerted, proactive effort that still continues to this day to demonize and dehumanize anybody who disagrees with them, specifically Republicans for the Democratic Party, for the progressives, and to consider them not human and to engage them as not human. Well, if they're a fascist, you got to do something about fascists. And that's their argument. That's their theory. That's their philosophy. That cannot be denied. Kash Patel, FBI director, was there making his statements.
Role, and we will lead out for the federal government. But Governor Cox, we are so grateful for your state partnership that led out on this investigation. A little bit of the timeline. Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday. The first FBI agents arrived on scene in 16 minutes with chiefs of police at 12:39 and secured the scene. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets. We utilized these assets to transport personnel, specialty technicians, hostage rescue teams. We also utilized these assets to go back and forth from the East Coast and here in Utah to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed and is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico and other laboratories, including the ATF. At my direction, the FBI released the first set of FBI photos of the suspect at 10 a.m. local time on 9/11. Then, shortly thereafter, the FBI reward of $100,000 was released at 10:45.
It's a little bit of the timeline there. Now, as people are writing the phrases that were used in addition to "Hey fascist, catch," Bella Ciao, meaning goodbye beautiful, an Italian folk song that was a protest song from the Italian anti-fascist resistance. Seems like they've got their guy, and it seems like their guy is almost exactly what we thought. Someone who had been radicalized, someone who believed it was their responsibility to do away with anybody whom they should disagree with, anybody involved in hate speech. Feel the air quotes. From this microphone, I have argued repeatedly that there is no such thing as hate speech. There could very well be speech that you hate. Just like there is no such thing as hate crimes. There could very well be crimes could be crimes that you hate. There could be speech that you hate and crimes that you hate, but there are no hate crimes and there is no hate speech. It has never existed in the history of mankind, and it never will. These things are nonsense pablum constructs made up by weak people who want to silence others. They are wrong. I have taken a lot of heat where I live, being opposed to hate crimes legislation in the state of Indiana from Jewish organizations because they want this stuff. It's important that we say it's not okay when this happens to Jews. It's not okay when it happens to anybody. And I don't think that being Jewish, I'm some kind of flower. I think I can handle myself. I've got the Constitution. I'm covered. We all are. We do not need special subsets that somehow have some level of special protections. You're gay, you're straight, you're this, you're that. You are not special. You're not. You're an American, protected by the Constitution, under the laws of the Constitution. Good. Excellent. Now, let's go have lunch. But there is no question that this guy is what you would have assumed. Got ginned up, got geared up, got radicalized by the constant conversation, the lie that somehow America is a threat, when of course it is not. An election took place, and Donald Trump won, and Kamala Harris lost, and that's the end of the ball game. That was it. That's what happened. And someday down the road, people who disagree with me might win an election. I've lost elections. When Barack Obama won the presidency, I was living in California. I sat down at my kitchen table. My wife was there. My brother was there, the good Dr. Katz. I ate a bagel, which is weird because I really don't eat bread because I can't, and don't ask. It's terrible. And I was like, damn it. And I think that's as far as it went. Now, I was right. He was very bad for the country and instituted policies and ideas and philosophies that had no value for the country. This whole idea of the 99% and the 1% and the rich paying their fair share, that's the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. That's all that is. That's all. It's class warfare from beginning to end. I knew it would be awful. I said, damn it, at my kitchen table and had myself some carbs, which is a pretty rational way to react to bad news. Some people do ice cream. I did carbs. Looking back, ice cream would have been better. I'm glad they have this guy. And there are some people who think that the FBI has bungled this entire investigation and they were giving mixed messages and they just got lucky. Again, I'll take lucky. And again, I will discuss, and I will get more into it in a little bit, that this was more than an assassination. This was an act of political terrorism. And if you haven't seen my video yet on YouTube, you should go check it out. It's also there on Twitter X. This was political terrorism. That is where we are at. And I am convinced that this is not the end. I am also convinced that just because I'm on this side of the microphone, it does not necessarily put me in a different boat than where you might be. Somebody who's upset with your Facebook post or your social media post or your blog or your declaration or your commentary or the flag you might fly outside your home. It's an ugly time, and the only way out is through. And the only thing we can do is keep on talking. The objective of terrorism is to terrorize, is to create fear so you are silent, so you submit. And the answer is no. I will remind everybody, innocent until proven guilty, there will be a trial. There should be a trial. And I disagree with President Trump. I don't believe in speedy trials. Trial the next day? No. Speedy trial is for the defendant so they're not kept in jail for forever. The idea that we rush through it and rush to a guilty, no, we do this right. We do this right. Evidence seems very clear, including an admission. We don't give up our souls, but we are fully aware of who wants us to give up our rights and our minds. And the answer to that is no. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz Today. If you've got questions, I will do my best to answer them. Happy to hear your thoughts. I'll share the comments if you want to put them in there. Yeah, Natalie, political terrorism. And if you haven't seen my YouTube video, I go into this, that it is what it is. And some people had commented, we don't even have I did this last night. We don't even have a suspect yet. It is what it is, right? You don't have to think too esoterically here. We see it. Why don't we just say it? What is keeping us from saying it, preventing us from saying it? And I argue the answer is nothing, except, of course, the willingness to say so. It was political terrorism. Now, being asked on Twitter, do I really condone wasting taxpayer dollars on long, drawn-out trials? I am not suggesting that I like when the system gets abused. But if we're going to engage the concept of speedy trial, can we ensure that the defendant is given every opportunity to defend themselves from a prosecution that has unlimited resources and abuses? You're telling me we should have a speedy trial so the state can have it easier? Nah. No. Oh, hell no. Am I allowed to? There are things I don't even say, even though it's still the live stream. We're not back to the radio show yet. No. And Aaron, welcome to the show, man. Glad you're here. Absolutely. But if you've got thoughts, I want to share them. I can't bring the calls in like this, but 833-GOT-TONY, if you want to call in, I'll talk to you, and I'll repeat the questions so everybody in the live stream can get it. That'd be calling the radio station, right? I want to hear your thoughts. 833 got Tony, 833-468-8669. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. That threat in Annapolis. So this yesterday was the story where the U.S. Naval Academy was on lockdown. And it was believed that there was an active shooter on the grounds there of Annapolis, the U.S. Naval Academy. There was not. And this hoax thing, where we've seen a couple of universities, oh my gosh, there's a shooter, and there wasn't, it's a real problem. And what you would not have wanted to happen, but you would assume could happen from the situation, happened. So you had this call for a lockdown and everybody's sheltering in place. There's a security team that's working its way around, and one of the midshipmen mistook a responding law enforcement officer for a threat, struck the officer with a parade rifle that's used for training. The officer responded by firing. Every part of that is understood. That's the only shot that took place. That midshipman was helicoptered out and in a local hospital, and I believe at this point is indeed recovering. Scary story. This hoax stuff is scary stuff. And this very much plays into the concept of swatting, where if you know what swatting is when somebody calls the police and says there's something terrible happening at this house and he's doing this or she's doing that, and then the police come ready for a real fight, but nothing's going on. The whole story is made up. And so it's terrorizing these people, and the police are at this heightened level, and it's called swatting. And there was a rash of it, then it went away, and then I remember it happened to a fellow radio host by the name of Eric Erickson, and then I haven't heard about it in a while. But that's what this reminds me of: these hoaxes, these pretends, these pretend things. It's dangerous stuff. It's violent stuff, and that there are issues that take place where someone can get shot. Absolutely. Now, this is all going to fall into the left's conversation of, well, this just proves we need more gun laws. Like the people who look at Charlie Kirk being assassinated and say, well, he supported the Second Amendment, so I guess this is going to happen. The amount of stories like that where people are kind of, some are flat out celebrating. Oh, they love it. And some people are utilizing, their Photoshop skills. There's this t-shirt shop that I talked about this on my morning show. They've got these t-shirts out, watch your neck, right? The check your neck, or was it protect your neck, which is a takeoff of a Wu-Tang Clan song. And Charlie Kirk, cartoon versions of him being shot. And it turns out this t-shirt shop, no, somebody manipulated the imagery. They didn't do anything wrong. So I feel awful for them. Because people, I first reported, like, look what they're doing. There's like, oh my gosh, they're being abused. They're not doing this. This is horrific. But people are indeed celebrating. They're 1,000% celebrating. And then they're doing what they do, which is saying, go after the guns. We will address that. I've also, the latest on what's going on with Russia and Poland, and some stories that we missed while September 11th and the horror of Charlie Kirk was happening. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. There are, because of where I live, I'm hearing a lot of the Indiana stories about insanity. I'm telling you right now, there is so much just vitriol out there. The question for rational people is, how do they do it? How can you be that angry all the time? How can you be so overjoyed that someone is dead? when Osama bin Laden, it was announced he was killed, and there were people celebrating in New York, my first reaction was, what are you doing? Good. This terrorist is gone. Next. But you thought about it for a little while. They're in New York. They're the people who, in many ways, feel like they were the ones attacked, even though it was an attack on the nation. But I understand that. And they were thrilled to see some justice done. What the bloody world is the justice in assassinating Charlie Kirk? And the answer is none. The answer is absolutely none. Dave, how was it not terrorism? Okay, you brought a definition. To use violence or threat of, to intimidate or coerce a government, civilian population, or any segment thereof in furtherance of political, ideological, or religious objectives. One of the ways we should better kind of phrase this is to the furtherance of the political, ideological, or religious objective is the silencing of the other person, which is, of course, it. Because not only do they not want you to talk, they don't want anybody else to hear what it is you have to say, because if they hear it, they might say, well, that's interesting. Right? The danger in an idea. You know, I would state clearly that ideas are not dangerous, although I'd be a fool. They absolutely can be. But anybody who doesn't want to express ideas or don't want ideas expressed, that's more dangerous, right? I mean, we're all being honest with each other here. That is far more dangerous. And this thing about calling people fascists, and they won't stop. And there's our only answer is to make sure these people never win an election again. You're not going to have me go the other way. I won't talk about those things. Win. They cannot be allowed power. And you got whatever MSNBC, whatever MSN Now, or whatever they're calling themselves, or CNN does. One of the things that has to happen is our change in news sources. But very often we pay attention because we need to know what they're saying. But they're dangerous and they're damaging. And their sponsors, sorry, we can't be around that stuff. And yes, there's going to be a divide. The only way out is through. This doesn't get better until it gets better. And I'm telling you, there is no switch. Can't flip it. Can't be done. But I'm going to get into all of that. I will get into all of that. I started this cigar earlier today. It's not like I'm smoking fast. So, yeah. I'm going to have to get another cigar. I'm going to need another cigar, producer Landon. Hold on, wait. He's not here. He's not. I'm alone in the studio. This is ridiculous. Honestly, a studio audience coming soon. Hold on, wait. No, not coming soon. Well, I don't know if I want that. Maybe.
So you believe the killer was a trained assassin? Usually your instincts are always on.
I'd rather not say. I think progress is being made. He's an animal, total animal. And hopefully they'll have him and they'll get him. What he did is disgraceful. Charlie Kirk was a great person, a great man, great in every way, especially with youth. And what he did, what this man did, was disgraceful. So hopefully we'll have him and we will deal with him very appropriately.
They do have a suspect in custody who has made admission to doing this. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. The live stream is available. Just go to YouTube and go to youtube.com/Tony Katz, and you can see it on the Twitter X, Tony Katz, Facebook, Tony Katz Radio. be able to get the live stream. There are some other stories going on, and I do want to get to them, and I've got more on the arrest here. It's a massive, massive story, and really a lot of fallout, as one could imagine, from the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and how there are these great claims of we need to tone down the rhetoric, especially you fascists. It's a question of, do you ignore these people, or are you constantly discussing the madness with which they speak? I believe that you have to stop with the CNNs and the MSNBCs. It has to stop. But then I come across these maddening kind of statements like this from Al Sharpton.
If you think about those times, I was a kid. I was born in the 50s, but I was a kid when Dr. King got killed and Medgar Evers. People forget that right before the 1963 March on Washington, Medgar Evers was killed. But after the march, in his driveway, for trying to do voter registration. But even after the marches, when you had the bombing in the Birmingham church, killed 4 girls. So it was all of this one right after another. And now we're seeing it in real time again. What is really troubling to me is that we are beginning to normalize this. And I think that this is a time, rather than people choosing sides, we need to take the side of saying this political violence has to stop. Whatever we need to do that. If you think
this is the man behind Freddie's Fashion Mart. That's my take of it. You had the person who was operating Freddie's Fashion Mart looking to engage an eviction of a black-owned business. And here comes Al Sharpton, who in the day was in his Adidas tracksuits weighing 512 pounds or whatever it is he weighed, leading the protests against Freddie's Fashion Mart that then led to the attack. Shooting at officers as it took place. And people were killed. And now Al Sharpton, in his Armani suits, he traded in the Adidas tracksuit for the Armani suit, but the guy never changed. Still on the grift, still not paying taxes, at least at my last check. Maybe he cleared that all up by now. He wants to engage the idea of we should be nonviolent. He was calling people white interlopers. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to hear it from Al Sharpton. And somehow I'm supposed to think that this is the great intellectual thought, that we have to do away with violence, but riots in Minneapolis and riots in Seattle and riots in Chicago and riots in Los Angeles and riots here, there, and everywhere, fine. You know, the riot's just the language of the unheard. Very hard to take these people seriously. So the question before us is, what do you pay attention or not? Do you pay attention when CNN, so this just came out. I want to hear this for myself as well. This is Dana Bash on CNN.
And the other really important question is, what happens inside the White House? What do they do? What do they do with that understandable sorrow and anger? And I'll just show something that Stephen Miller said online. He said there is an ideology that has steadily been growing in this country, which hates everything that is good, righteous, and beautiful, and celebrates everything that is warped, twisted, and depraved. It is an ideology at war with family and nature. The fate of millions depends upon the defeat of this wicked ideology. The fate of our children, society, our civilization hinges on it. Now, this could be Stephen Miller, again, understandably hurt and angry. This is also a person who has a lot of power. And the question is whether or not they're going to listen to Spencer Cox or they're going to be seeking retribution.
Absolutely.
That's the question. That's the That's the question, because I'm pretty sure that's not the question. What retribution are you possibly referring to? That there's a trial, and if he's found guilty for the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, he could get the death penalty just like anybody else could involved in a murder in the state. How is that in any way retribution? How do you position yourself as that? That is a bit of radical madness. It made me think of Jim Treacher, JTLOL on the Twitter X, who's really, really interesting. Very, very interesting cat. And he was referencing an article from Slate where they wrote, the response to Charlie Kirk's death on the right is pretty damn ominous. What? We're disgusted? All rational people should be disgusted. We're sickened. People were friends with him, and they are sad. They were inspired by him, and they're angry. And yet, as Governor Cox noted, and I noted, not a single building burned down last night because of it. As Jim Treacher pointed out regarding the Slate article, they said the worst part of the Charlie Kirk assassination was the right's response, and I disagreed. And this was a takeoff of a Norm Macdonald statement, the late, great Norm Macdonald, to Jerry Seinfeld. It goes along the Norm Macdonald line, what terrifies me is if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device and kill 50 million Americans, imagine the backlash against peaceful Muslims. I mean, you talk about hitting it right on the head. You're worried about the retribution. We should be worried about the assassination. These people are unserious. Now the question before us, I'm asking you, which way should it work? I'm one guy on radio. There's a lot of people on radio. Should we keep mentioning these things? And if I don't mention them, am I doing an outrageous disservice? But if you keep talking about them, they still have some level of power and control. They shouldn't. Now, I understand that what I'm kind of discussing here, to an extent, maybe advocating, is the idea of a full separation. They've got their news and we've got ours, and they've got their people and we've got ours, and that's it. You don't actually want that. But I do think that's where we're at right now. I can't condone someone buying from an MSNBC sponsor. I went through, I can't do anything about national sponsors, but I can do things about my local sponsorship. And I was going through, do I have any local sponsors or do I have any national sponsors that play in that world? Because no, I won't do it. Right? Sometimes national sponsors come to my local show and I do advertising for them, but I always vet everybody, and no, I won't have it. It doesn't happen to me as much as maybe it happens to others. But what do you do? What do you do in this situation? I think it is understandable that someone could say, I'm aware those people exist, but I'm staying over here and I'm staying in this lane. Because what CNN is putting out there, what they're offering out there is madness. And their headline, Trump allies threaten to punish critics of Charlie Kirk. How? What punishment are you even beginning to talk about? What possible punishment? CNN is still on the air. MSNBC put people on the air who are less than an hour after Charlie Kirk was shot, We're saying, well, I don't know, maybe it was people engaged in celebration. It was celebratory gunfire that hit him. Who knows? Well, you say hateful things, expect hateful things to happen. Now, to their credit over there at MSNBC, they fired Matthew Dowd for those comments. But Katie Tur allowed that to happen. And she was on the show the next day, and it was like she had gotten the memo. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna talk about how terrible this is now." Where were you yesterday? I am not sure. I mean, I didn't mean to go off on a little bit of a tangent there. I do have some other things to get to, but do you stop paying attention to these people and just have a full separation, or do you keep seeing what it is that they're saying so you can discuss when possibly they get something right, or the madness of their position to begin with, to try and persuade more people that they're not giving you the full, honest, complete, total story? Let me know what you think in the comments over there at the live stream at youtube.com/Tony Katz, or on Twitter X Tony Katz, and of course email Tony at Tony Katz today. Keep it here. Be right back. Welcome back. Tony Katz today. Oh, I was supposed to grab another cigar and I forgot. I'll grab it in a little bit. I will grab it in mere moments. The GOP goes nuclear, which I am very, very happy about. I hope it's all right. It's not that I'm trying to dwell on just one subject. Maybe that's just it. It's not one subject, right? We've got the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which is massive, and it actually spawns these other things. And when you see this kind of talk on CNN, the only thing I'm left to say is that's not a legitimate argument they're making. Well, the White House is going to engage in retribution. What possibly are they talking about? How is that a subject? What retribution do you think? And so I get into this back and forth of, do I share it? Do I not share it? Et cetera. And I admit it drives me a little bit nuts. I think it's, I don't watch. I think that maybe what I do is share here because maybe that's the job. More than anything, that's the job. Share the matter so we can discuss it, but I can't, until these networks want to actually be better and engage rationally, no. By the way, I was talking about Andre Carson, Congressman Andre Carson, who has a staffer who is seemingly all in on Charlie Kirk getting hurt. I'm sorry, getting assassinated. I apologize. I shouldn't read and talk at the same time. And someone told me to shut my bitch ass up. To which I said no. So, you see, the response I wanted to give was, what if I don't? Right? But now you're like inviting it, right? Is that what they want? It's nuts. Let's get back to the show, shall we? We've got the show, and we've got a little bit of a break. And then we'll get back to it. So a lot going on. Smoke them if you got them. I'd start now. If I were you, right now, I'd start. The story about Congressman Andre Carson was in Breitbart.com. Democrat Representative Andre Carson's staffer says slain Charlie Kirk, quote, casualty of the violence he incited. Again, this is the left saying that Charlie Kirk's skirt was too short and he deserved to be raped. It's the same conversation. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. That's what they said. Congressman Andre Carson, Democrat from the 7th District of Indiana, Indianapolis, a guy who refers to Rashida Tlaib as his sister, a guy who won't condemn Louis Farrakhan, admits to a friendship with Louis Farrakhan. Yeah, that's his staffers. I was very happy to see the Senate Republicans say, all right, nuclear option it is. Thank you, Harry Reid. They changed the rules in the Senate to speed up confirmation of Trump nominees because Democrats were holding up every nominee, so you couldn't just voice vote on everything. You had to go through every single one when even Joe Biden got 530 some odd voice votes. They're doing this purposefully. They're not just, fighting. They're radical obstructionists who can't accept the fact that they lost. And when you lose, just take it. When they lose, well, no. That's what they're doing. So now you can get these lower level executive nominees through with a simple majority vote. So you don't have to vote for each one individually. Now we're going to move this through. And there are more than 100 Trump nominees for these sub-cabinet posts that Democrats have been trying to hold up, trying to keep the duly elected president from governing. It's always been this way with them, certainly in regards to Trump. And again, I will remind you, so we always understand, and I would say this to the president, this isn't about him. And I think he would absolutely agree because I could point to a million times where he's discussed this. This isn't about Trump. It's about you. You voted for him. The left is so angry that you, the American people, didn't listen to them and do what you were told, that now you're punished. You don't get what you want. You don't get a fully working government. We engage in lawfare. We don't put these nominees into effect like we have for every other president, whether that be Biden, whether that be Barack Obama, whether that be Bush, or whether that be Trump in his first term, which only shows how much more radical they've gotten. But I'm happy to see the Senate make this move. Good job, Senator Thune, Senate Majority Leader. You got to fight the way the fight needs to be fought, which is why I favor redistricting, but we'll get to that subject. In the meantime, nothing burned down. And that's very important. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. Here's what we've got, everybody. The radio show is in break. So we're going to be in break. Take a couple minutes, stretch the legs, do things that maybe you wouldn't mention on a live stream, because I would think that's an OnlyFans live stream that would mention such a thing. Also, man, if I could get away with having an OnlyFans. The money is just so dumb. And it is affecting economies, and it is affecting lives. And when you take 18-year-old girls who are waiting to turn 18 so they can start an OnlyFans, and that's how they'll get paid. Why do you need anything else? Bad things come from this. Very bad things come from this. Also, I never want to hear about the pay gap again, because I'm pretty sure that me, with all my skill set and all my training, could not make a 100th, never mind a 1,000th of the money that the vast majority of women are making on OnlyFans. And honestly, that's not fair. And therefore, they should have to pay me. There's one OnlyFans model that makes more money than LeBron. I'm not even surprised. And she does less flopping. No. I'm going to stick with my flopping joke. Producer Landon in my ear making flop jokes. Joking about flopping. Yep. That's it for sure. So we're going to take the break. You guys take the break. Hang loose. Keep it here. We'll be back in a few. All right? Stay right there. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Great to be here. Great to be with you. Didn't get to put up the show sheet today. Every day, Monday through Friday, I have over there at TonyKatz.com the show sheet. Everything that I'm going to talk about today or probably talk about today, get to today, etc. I put up there. And it was interesting that the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, engaged a conversation that I was also engaged in, something extremely important and worthy of noting, which is there are a lot of, call it stories. I guess that's what we'll call it. A lot of offshoot stories of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which, oh my God, they killed Charlie Kirk. I don't, am I the only person who has said this more than once? Just like in doing my things, like, oh my gosh, this really happened. This absolute madness really happened. One of the things that is worthy of noting is that nothing burnt to the ground. And as we come back to the radio show in a minute, I want to dig in on this idea, this reality, this thing that must be noted, because if we don't, we are not if we don't, we're creating a serious issue for ourselves. We have to be honest about what's happening at all times. Tony always says he's live from the heartland, the crossroads of America, but does he always mean it? I live here, so yeah. Yes, I do. And by the way, that line comes from my predecessor. That was the introduction that the great Greg Garrison used on his show on 93.1 FM WIBC, and I asked if I could use that. So he said yes, and I've used it ever since. Anyway, let's get to the radio show. It was nice to see that I wasn't the only person who noticed that nothing burnt to the ground. I was discussing how the assassination of Charlie Kirk has a lot of offshoot stories that we've now seen about how people respond, both good and bad, how people who are so filled with their own venom, how they respond by cheering death, cheering it. They not like us. Kendrick was very right. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. The live stream over there on YouTube, youtube.com/Tony Katz. That's how you get to be a part of it. Twitter X, Tony Katz, Facebook, Tony Katz Radio, and listen all across your radio dial. Great affiliates, and thrilled to be here, and can't thank you guys enough. It needs to be noted that amongst all the responses that we've seen the left cheering this, we've seen the left mocking this, we have seen people like Ilhan Omar engage in some very, very ugly talk and real pseudo-intellectualism that was excused by her compatriots and fellow hater like Mehdi Hassan.
We're running out of time. Michael Hernandez asked a good question on YouTube. He says, in this environment, why would you take away Secret Service protection from the former vice president? Trump happily pulled protection from Harris and I believe from people like John Bolton, who I'm not a fan of, but I don't want to see John Bolton killed. He's pulled protection from a lot of people he doesn't like. Doesn't sound like someone taking political violence that seriously when it's people he doesn't like.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. It's they are never willing or care to worry about when, you know, it's those of us on the other side of the aisle that are getting death threats, that have had their houses shot up, that have had, you know, people show up to their homes.
Stop it. Representative Omar, just stop it. You said that members of Congress were paid off by the Jews. You may very well have married your own brother to stay in the country, something I'd like to see at least investigated so we could either determine its veracity or put that rumor to rest. You came into Congress with nothing and you now have $30 million. And when Supreme Court justices were being threatened, there was nothing to say. No one should be coming to your home. No one should be threatening you. They just shouldn't vote for you. But when it comes to Kamala Harris, the former vice president of the United States, Secret Service protection ends. It wasn't pulled, it ended. Same thing was true for Vice President Mike Pence. It ended. That's it. But if you want to pay for her security, you're more than welcome to. This was a lie. Amongst a series of lies that Ilhan Omar told regarding basically, well, Charlie Kirk and he supported the Second Amendment. Well, these things happen. Obscene stuff. But something happened over the last 2 days that no one noticed because, well, the thing that happened is actually the thing that didn't happen. And the thing that didn't happen is not a single city, nor building, nor business was burned to the ground. The people who follow Charlie Kirk are white supremacists. That's what we got told. The people who follow Charlie Kirk are fascists. The people who follow, listened, participated in, went to his events, that of Charlie Kirk, un-American. Ideologues. Yet not a single business burned to the ground. Not a single window was broken. We would have heard it, right? You want to do me a favor there, producer Landon? Do a quick check of the reporting just to make sure I'm not wrong? A guy with 5 million followers on social media who built an organization, amazingly so, may I add, around the globe. No one got hurt. No one got attacked. And I was very happy to see that the governor of Utah made mention of this.
I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting. There was no looting. There were no cars set on fire. There was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes.
It does. That is true. So first to the observation. To the observation that no one set anything on fire, and it's more than just Utah, Governor Cox. Charlie Kirk was known coast to coast. No one anywhere. Can't say that about the political left. Can't say that about Black Lives Matter. Can't say that about George Floyd riots, where the violence was condoned and was actually lauded and glorified. It was lifted up. No one did anything like that. And that's the point that I only wish that the governor had gotten to. That's the difference. The argument they make about January 6th, and look at how the president incited these people to violence and positioned them to violence. I have made the argument that the president should have been much more aggressive to the protection of then Vice President Mike Pence. I've made this argument a million times, and saying everybody go home. It should have happened faster. But the argument that somehow he brought those people to the Capitol to wage war is a lie. And it's always been a lie. And no matter how much bluster the left puts on it, no matter what kind of television show they produced, which they brought in a showrunner from ABC, for the love of the Lord, to do those prime time J6 kind of specials where there was no rebuttal. It was beyond kangaroo with the veneer that somehow this had legitimacy. I mean, Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney should still be embarrassed. So, by the way, should the Democrats, but that would involve shame, and that's not going to happen. There was no violence. And you know how amazing it is that after the assassination, no one had to put out a statement, hey, no violence tonight. Hey, be cool. Let's not hurt anybody tonight. No one's going to hurt anybody. Not too far from me is a college campus, and they held a vigil. They woke up the next morning, September 11th, and they gathered on the quad, and they prayed, and they talked. By the way, for any college campus out there, anyone out there, you should keep doing the events. Certainly, I'm going to make the assumption that Turning Point is going to do exactly that. I don't know anybody at Turning Point. I have no connection to Turning Point. I'm assuming they're going to do exactly that. But others should as well. Keep talking, keep sharing. And to any extent I can help, whether it's me or somebody I know that you want to get access to, reach out. Absolutely. Keep doing it. Do not stop. Do not stop engaging and sharing and talking. But they didn't riot on their college campuses. They held prayer vigils. We're different. Our methodology, our philosophy, our basis is different. Is it the faith component? Charlie Kirk, born again, an evangelical, a believer in his faith, a guy who would express his faith. Were these people like-minded, and therefore this is the way you act? Was it because the conservative mind does not think of destruction? They think about how to engage a better tomorrow, how to come together as opposed to how to tear down? Is it because as a matter of just sheer ideology, we don't believe that destruction is the way to get to things? But Antifa does, and Black Lives Matter does. I mean, we have the data. We saw what happened. What are we talking about? I think it is important to note that this horror happened and not a single bit of damage was done. I think that's something you should share with your kids, share with your friends, share with your spouses, because in that there is a story. There is a story about the fact that not only did nothing happen, we didn't even think that something could. It never, look in the mirror. It never came to your mind. You never once said, man, I really hope nobody sets anything on fire tonight. Never. It never happened. Now, Clay in the chat room said that historically black colleges and universities had bomb threats. I heard about that, but I haven't seen a story about it. Producer Landon, see if you can find it. Have we found out who did the threatening? Okay. No, I wasn't talking to you about that, Landon. I was asking a question. You tell me that there was a bomb threat. I won't say no to that. My question is, who did the threatening? Because I've been told very often, look at the racism on college campuses. My gosh, a noose was left in this professor's office, and it turns out the professor made the noose. That story has happened repeatedly. Oh, look, this person who was black got attacked. It turns out they're Jussie Smollett. So with all due respect, Clay, and I appreciate you coming to the chat room, man. You're always welcome. Don't tell me that the threat took place. Tell me who was doing the threatening. Because until you can tell me who, you got nothing. I can tell you that anybody who had a car yesterday, unless they live in San Francisco, had a car today. And everybody who had a house yesterday had a house today. And every Democrat slept easy, knowing that it wouldn't come. Because the people, not even just on the political right, the rational people, they're moderates, they're independents, they may be religious, maybe not, I don't know. But they're here, they're a part of this show, they're a part of our lives, they're our friends. They should see that nothing of a violent nature took place. And that's a real story about a difference in these two Americas we seem to have. And I think that story is worthy of mentioning to your kids, to your friends on the bar stool at happy hour a little bit later today, over the weekend while you grill a steak. And oh, you should grill a steak. I have some prime ribeyes. No, you're not invited. They're all for me. I know, very selfish with the steak. It's worth noting. And I'm glad that Governor Cox did just that. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Didn't mean for it to take that long. Welcome, Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. I put the link in about the threats to HBCUs, but there was no proof that it came from, we don't know who it came from. So, again, that proves the point. But you find me the person who's threatening universities, and I'll show you the person I want to throw in jail. Of course. Oh, then there's this. You know, I talk about the border being the biggest story in America. I've got the story. I have got the story right there. Go here. Let me see if anybody's got here. No. Good enough. Got that. Boom. We are good. We are absolutely good. Did Chris Cuomo say he wouldn't be surprised if Elon Musk gets murdered for his views? Chris Cuomo referred to Elon Musk as morally bankrupt? Honestly, News Nation, what the hell are you doing? You know you shouldn't have hired him. Down the middle. Come on, guys. You had all the opportunity in the world, and this is what you chose? Holy hell. Smoking the Arturo Fuente Hemingway. It's a great, great cigar for the price point. My advice, get one immediately. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. I often discuss how the border is the biggest story in America. Bill Melugin over at Fox News has a story about a guy who was released from ICE custody by the Biden administration in January of 2025, January 13th, 1 week before Donald Trump took office. Why was he released? No significant likelihood of removal in the foreseeable future. They could not enforce the deportation because he's from Cuba and Cuba wouldn't cooperate. We have airplanes. We have parachutes. I don't need Cuba's cooperation at all. In the slightest. Send more cigars. That's all I've got for you. And you don't even need a Cuban cigar today. The seed is everywhere. There's so much good stuff happening in so many parts. Nicaragua, Honduras, the Dominican. It's spectacular. I'll talk cigars later. This guy's criminal history was involving false imprisonment, indecency with a child in Texas, grand theft of a vehicle in Florida, carjacking and false imprisonment. He was acquitted on the carjacking in California, convicted on false imprisonment. And this guy took a machete and beheaded a motel manager in Dallas, Texas. It was a argument with the motel manager. The manager was beheaded in front of his wife and son, to which this illegal immigrant kicked the head, picked it up, and threw it in a dumpster. The border continues to be the biggest story in America. And every single move made to engage the deportations of illegal immigrants is the right move. The argument often made is hardworking people trying to lead a better life. I don't disagree that that exists. The problem is, if the argument comes from people who will not accept the fact there's a difference between legal and illegal immigration. They purposefully will never say the words. They want to say immigrants, as if somehow we're going after people who are here legally. Somehow we are the violators. It's a lie. It's a manipulation. It's a fraud. And sadly, there are some people who refuse to accept reality and buy into it. The move that must come, that must continue to take place, is the deportation of these people at breakneck speed. Do I believe in speedy trials? No. Which is to say, I don't believe that a trial should be done with speed as opposed to done accurately. Do I believe in speedy deportations for illegal immigrants? Yes. Do I believe in due process? Yes. Illegal immigrants don't have the due process of citizens, and I want it remembered. And Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not a Maryland man, and I don't care if he's in Uganda or anywhere else, as long as he's not here. He cannot walk free in the United States, connected to MS-13, connected to human trafficking. Who would want this guy? No wonder El Salvador doesn't want him back, and they took him. There is very clearly an argument to be made that when they say, you know, illegal immigrants or immigrants commit less crimes than American citizens. First of all, we're talking about illegal immigrants, of course. And secondly, there are less illegal immigrants than there are American citizens. So by percentage, of course, that's true. But I can reduce the amount of illegal immigrant crime to 0 if we didn't have illegal immigrants in the country. I mean, that's just true. Those are the facts. The border remains the biggest story in America. And the first step towards our safety and security is removing the people from the country who are a criminal element who came to the country illegally. And yes, I'm sure there are people who came to the country illegally who want to lead a good life. They should come legally. And we should say welcome with open arms. But the criminal element, they got to go or they have to be imprisoned. And that's that. That motel manager should be alive today. I'm Tony Katz. Guys, I appreciate you being here. I got to run. I know I run from the live stream at weird times. It's like 90 minutes. It doesn't even make any sense, but there are reasons, and I'm going to leave the mystery at that. I'm going to leave it at that. I appreciate you. I can't thank you enough. Keep listening to the radio show at WIBC.com. It's been a week. This was a week. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here and being a part of it. The show is growing because of you. I'm thrilled. I'm overjoyed, and I look forward to what the future is bringing. So thank you very much, and I will catch you on Monday. Everybody, you be good. Take care.